Good morning. How are you guys today? Well, we got a few responses. So we know it's a Monday and we know it's rainy, but I have to tell you, we are very fortunate today to have an amazing panel of women. As you'll see, diverse in their ages, diverse in their ethnicities, who have come here today to talk to you about opportunities that are available to women in STEM fields, specific even to our area. They're going to share their stories, tell you how they got where they got, what it took to get there. But again, we are just very fortunate and we are very thankful that all of you are here to join us. So I'm going to start by introducing you to Shelly Weiss Kettle. We have been communicating back and forth for the vast majority of the year through WebExes, so this is the first time I've actually gotten to see her in person. She is excited to share. She's excited to bring you guys back potentially for more experiences next year. I hope you'll absorb everything they have to say, and please ask lots and lots of questions. That's what they're here for. Without further ado, Shelly.
Good morning. And do we have students who are also remote joined in?
No, they're live streaming, so hopefully so.
Okay. All right. So good morning to those here in the auditorium and to those who are joining us on live stream. And my name is Shelly Weiss Kettle. I am an employee of Procter Gamble, and I've been there for over 30 years. As Christy was saying, we've been planning this for quite a bit of time, and some of you may recognize my Space to Be Me t-shirt for those who were in the Girls in STEM program, or maybe some of your younger other Princeton Vikings were joining us in the program in 2019. I'm a huge STEM advocate. STEM, for anyone who might not know, is science, technology, engineering, and math. And it's a very exciting field to be in. So, as Christy said, I have some friends here from other companies as well as from Procter Gamble. What we thought would be helpful to you is to talk a little bit about our experiences, what we experienced when we were in high school. What were we thinking about STEM? How did we, and particularly as women in STEM, so you might notice we exclusively invited the women here today. STEM fields have been very historically male-dominated. That doesn't mean that there are not jobs for women. Actually, women are very much in demand. And I should pull up just a second. You may not know Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble is a company that makes a lot of different brands, and I'll give one example. I brought some examples always. If you have a company of men who are making feminine hygiene products, don't you think maybe it would be helpful to have a woman who's there at the table and doing some research and understanding the challenges and what problems need to be solved? So P&G makes a lot of products for women, and actually now men. We sat around the table talking about she, the consumer, for years without men at the table. And finally, one of our CEOs, our chief executive officers, the head of the company, said, wait, what are we doing here making all these products for women without having a lot of women in our organization doing our research, doing our marketing, etc. So women are very important to have in STEM fields. I am a native Cincinnatian, so my family, my husband's family, were Cincinnati West Siders, so the people who have been here for all of our lives. I went to Oak Hills High School, and so did my husband actually, a few years ago, a lot of years ago. When I was in high school, my dad was a chemical engineer, and he always encouraged all of us to be involved in science, but I'll be dating myself, like we actually use cassette tapes, which you may not even know what they are, but that's how I did my coding in high school. And I thought, well, this is pretty cool, so why don't I give it a try? So after graduating from high school and taking one class in high school that had something to do with computers, and it was programming, which is one small aspect of IT, which is one small aspect of STEM, and you're gonna hear from women who are in different aspects of STEM today. I went to Xavier University, so again here locally in Cincinnati, and I started with a degree called computer science. And I'll be honest, after my first year of computer science, I went to my counselor and said, I want to change majors. Like, I don't like this. We took a class called numerical computation, like this isn't very interesting. And he said, okay, that's great. What do you want to do? And I said, I've always loved math, but I don't know what I would do with a math degree. And I took these economics classes that were really cool. So that afternoon, we mapped out my schedule, and actually I ended up graduating with computer science and math and economics. I love to do a lot of different things, and those fields fit together very nicely. I worked hard while I was in college, but I finished that in 4 years, so no extra time, no extra money to get that degree. So when I started, my message to you is when I started in high school, I thought, oh, computers, this is cool, this is new. This is, believe it or not, before cell phones, before everybody had a laptop at home. I graduated from high school, actually even graduated from college, and I didn't even have a laptop at home, a PC. I don't know how many assignments I was at my current employer before. And so Chrissy said, we've got different ages. I'm probably at the end, the highest end of the age spectrum of my friends who are here today. But we didn't have laptops, we didn't have PCs. I went into college not really knowing what I wanted to do. I started in computer science and ended up switching and then coming back and getting computer science. What that has done for me, though, I graduated from college and I had multiple job offers, which was awesome. So being in that field, we have what we call negative unemployment. There are more jobs than there are people who are graduating from school with those degrees who are in the job market looking for those jobs. So it's a great area in terms of your ability to get a job upon graduation. And then, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. So let me take a step back then. On school, so I had multiple job offers. I went to work for a bank doing network work. So think about how one area of computers talks to another area of computers. That's all the network, kind of like the internet. But the internet actually didn't exist at that time. And then I left that company and came to Procter Gamble. I've been there for over 30 years and done many different kinds of roles in IT. So you'll hear about all different areas of STEM today, but I want to tell you that even in information technology, there are all different kinds of work that you can do. Data and analytics, you can do more infrastructure, which is the areas that I've been in. You can do applications, think about all the apps on your phone and out there in the world that you use in day-to-day life. For me, graduating with multiple job offers and then being able to change companies was awesome. I could have changed companies every few years. That's how great the job market is, and I know many people do that, and I don't know if any of these women will have stories like that. But again, there are a lot of jobs that are available. So I wanted to share and make a good living doing that. So I have 3 children, and they've all been able to go to the schools that they've been able to go to. I have one who graduated from Boston University, one who graduated from University of Cincinnati, and one who graduated from University of Notre Dame. And that's because my job at P&G has allowed me to get that education for my children and allowed them to do incredible things. So just a quick kind of a day in the life for me. What do I do these days in the area of STEM that I'm in information technology? As I said, there are a lot of different things you can do. So I have worked with our suppliers. So at a lot of companies, the work that you do, you don't necessarily do within your company. You get other companies, other suppliers they call them, or people who are freelancing or contracting to do work for you. I work with our largest IT suppliers, so I'm currently leading a team of people from finance and legal and purchases and the business to negotiate a deal with our largest IT outsourcing supplier. So a couple of years ago, I negotiated another deal that, just to give you an idea, it covers all different aspects of IT. It's a 5-year, $2 billion deal. So these are big deals for companies like Procter Gamble to be negotiating. So I spend a lot of my time working with other people in other fields, collaborating, again, understanding IT and how they apply it in their business. So one thing that's important on technology is you don't just understand technology for technology's sake. You understand it to do something, to deliver something. All right. What do I love most about my job in STEM? I just really enjoy the work, the challenge. I'm a person who loves to see something different every day. I don't like to come in and sit down and like, here's what I need to do, the same thing. I like to understand a challenge, be given a challenge, and I get to go figure it out. And that's really a lot of what I get to do in my job today. So I'm going to stop talking now and hand it over to hear, for you to hear some other stories. We'll have Melissa and Barbara and Marcia talk, and then we're gonna switch it up a little bit and go to a video. We have a video from University of Cincinnati that for someone who couldn't be here, a person and then 2 students who couldn't be here today. And then we'll go on down the table, and then we've got a couple people who are joining us via WebEx. So Daisy, a colleague of mine, and then Laura from Ethicon. So without further ado, let me turn it over to Melissa Sanders from General Electric. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Okay. So as Shelly said, my name is Melissa Sanders. I'm from General Electric, and I'm an accountant. And I know most of you, or many of you, may not think that that sounds like the most exciting title, but I love my job because one of the things that's been really great is no 2 days are really the same. And I've had a number of different roles, like Shelly talked about, in terms of being in a discipline, but being able to do different things within the discipline. So I've had a number of roles, and I apologize, I'm adjusting my mask as I talk. I've had a number of roles across accounting that have allowed me to do different things and have different experiences, which has really been great for me. So let me tell you a little bit about my background and where I'm from. I'm originally from Cincinnati. I went to Walnut Hills High School, then did my undergraduate at the University of Dayton, and I have a graduate degree from UC. I started my career off in public accounting. And for most of you, hopefully you may know about public accounting, but I'm a certified public accountant, so I was an auditor going to public companies and auditing their financials. And that is one experience that's really terrific if you ever have the opportunity to do it. Because the caliber of people that you meet, dealing with the financial executives, the CFOs, the finance staff, and even your audit teams is really wonderful, and you develop a lot of skill sets working with different people, being a part of different teams, having to lead different teams, and even learning a lot about yourself in terms of the delivery of information, and also analyzing data and understanding. And so that was definitely a good stepping stone at the beginning of my career to help me go on to do other things. When I left public accounting, I went into the news media industry. And so I started off working in internal audit, which was a really fun opportunity because in internal audit, we traveled quite a bit. At that point in my career, I was fairly young. So it was nice getting to go different places, hanging out with my team members, seeing different areas. We audited newspapers, television stations. And if you're like me, you might not know how those things work behind the scenes, so it was kind of cool, to see like how they put together a newscast, how they put together the newspaper, that kind of thing. From there, I moved to Memphis, Tennessee, and I ran an accounting department at a newspaper, which was a great learning opportunity. And at that time, still fairly young in my career, getting the opportunity to work with different individuals and also learning a lot because you're dealing with different age groups, different people, and different things, just different life problems that you have to deal with as a manager that you yourself may not be going through, but you have to be sympathetic, empathetic, and also make sure that you deliver the work. And in that particular area at the time, it was subscription revenue, advertising revenue, and then the day-to-day accounting, as well as payroll and things like that. So definitely a good experience. And Memphis was also just a fun city to be in. Lots of music, lots of things to do. So a good opportunity there. From there, I came to General Electric, and I've been here for a number of years and had a number of different roles. I started off my career in GE, working with corporate supporting IT, and I was the U.S. controller for our IT, corporate component IT, and I had a colleague that did international, and so we were constantly talking amongst ourselves, trying to work through the kinks, providing technical accounting support for the business, and the things that they were trying to do, and really partnering with the ops leaders. From there, I moved to our aviation division, which is in Evendale, Ohio, so maybe some of you have seen it as you've driven up 75. We make aircraft engines, along with a host of other paraphernalia that accompanies an airplane. But at General Electric, I started off at Aviation, working in the financial close and reporting area. So as we deliver our financial statements to the street, there's a lot of information that goes into being able to deliver those financial statements, pulling together the numbers, the journal entries, and also the disclosure reporting that has to go into it, that has to be taken into account to roll up Aviation's numbers that ultimately go into GE's financials. So I did that for a number of years. I also supported the business by being the functional owner for several of the accounting financial systems, which was a learning experience in and of itself, but it allowed me to develop a lot of relationships with our IT team and really get to work closely with them and understand a little bit more about our business system. From there, I actually went into finance IT for a while and worked on several projects. Part of it was implementing new systems, financial accounting systems, and being able to talk and work with IT, partner with them to make sure that we were able to deliver the right product that met the needs of my finance colleagues, but from an IT perspective, we were able to solution what the issues were and also close some of the gaps between our old system and going into our new system. I also did special projects, so leading our efforts to change our calendar. So initially GE reported their numbers out on a fiscal calendar, which is not the same as your normal calendar, but it's usually a prescriptive calendar that they define to report the numbers, and it usually correlates to 12 periods. We changed to an actual monthly calendar, and so getting the business and our business systems to go to that plan. I also worked with the business and led an effort to change our chart of accounts, which may not seem like a really big deal, but for a business like GE, and especially our aviation business of that size, to actually go in and change the account structure and all of the feeder systems, and to get all of the finance people trained on it, and to get that delivered and to meet the deadlines, it was a pretty big undertaking. So from there, I actually went into our additive business, which became the controller for our additive business. Additive is probably most similar to like digital printing, if you've ever thought about that, but we use it a lot for manufacturing, and it's a really cool technology that we are investing in, we GE are investing in, as well as a lot of other businesses and industries. And it's really next generation in terms of some of the things that we're able to do. I think one of the examples that they used is that, just a part that today on a manufacturing floor has 234 pieces, and that's also man hours, people screwing in screws, doing all these things. Additively, they can produce it in 2 pieces. And the amount of time that it takes to produce it is significantly less. But in order to do that, you've got to change a lot of things and develop a lot of infrastructure around it to really make that productive and to make the switch. So I spent a couple of years doing that before I moved into my most recent role, which is in government accounting. So currently I'm the senior government accounting manager supporting our military operations division, which is a new role for me and actually quite interesting. You probably have not had a lot of experience dealing with the government, but it is something, and a new skill set I've been working to develop, and it's been really cool to actually interact with them and just see something different. So in this current role, I
So for our MSO accounting system, which is basically everything from costing to our control environment to our IT infrastructure and anything that deals with how we are able to bill the government for the products and the services that we provide. As well, my role is technical support for our classified operations, and our classified are just our secured contracts where you need military clearance to actually provide that support. I think one of the questions that Shelly asked us also to cover is what developed our interest in STEM, or how did we first get interested in STEM? And I think for me, my father was probably a big driver in that, just because he was very interested in mathematics and he liked numbers a lot. And so I think talking with him, I interacted with him and I enjoyed it a lot. And it was something to me that was fun to do, it was interesting, and so I really enjoyed it. When I first went to college though, I didn't think I was gonna be an accountant. I wanted to do something, I knew I wanted to be in business. I chose to do a broader major in business management, and I was taking accounting classes for fun, which kind of sounds a little nerdy, but it was the honest to God truth. I just enjoyed them. And so one day I got a call from the dean, and he said, you know, I know you're doing this business management thing, which is great. He said, but you take a lot of accounting classes. He said, you actually have quite a bit of accounting classes. Why are you taking these classes if you're not really going to be an accounting major? And I said, I just like them. I think it's fun. You know, I enjoy the challenge of it. And he said, well, let's make a deal. You know, you want to graduate, I understand you don't want to delay graduation, you want to graduate on time, but you got enough credit hours that you can really do it. So let's make a deal. You become a double major, you do accounting and management together, and we are going to work together to make sure that you get all your classes. We're not going to delay graduation, you're going to make graduation on time. But if you make this deal with me, then when you take your job opportunities and your interviews, you got to do as many accounting interviews as you do management interviews. And then we got to talk about it before you make your final selection. Seemed like a good deal. So I took it, and I never looked back. When the job opportunities came and the job offers came, I considered the accounting and just the regular business offers as well, and I ended up doing public accounting. So that's kind of my story. And I will stop there. Are we doing questions at the end or questions? Does anyone have questions?
Whoever, when they say a question, you might repeat it in the microphone for anyone who's on.
Okay.
What's one challenge you face?
What's one challenge?
One challenge I faced. I've actually faced a lot of them, but I guess one of them is actually one that Shelly mentioned earlier. I think starting off, and even now, lots of times within business, within accounting, it's probably more male-dominated than female-dominated. The numbers are slightly changing, but it's not uncommon sometimes to be the only female in the room. And when you're the only female in the room, it can be a challenge at times, especially in meetings and things. And early on, I had to learn how to deal with it, where you might make suggestions and people I don't know if it's always intentional, but sometimes people might talk over you, or it might be a situation where you have to find your way in or kind of interject or make your presence known. And it took me a little while to develop that style, that skill set and that style to be able to make sure that my voice was heard and my opinions were communicated well in the room. Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you very much. If anybody has any other questions later, feel free.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Capuzzolo. I work for P&G in the Pen Care Research and Development Department. Since 6 months ago, I've been working developing adult incontinence products, but over the last 5 years, I've been working in developing, improving, designing, and producing always. Okay. I will start by showing, and this is one of the little bit different because indeed we are, as Shelly was mentioning at the beginning, we are about all the balance of the experience. You could tell already my accent is not from here. I am from Venezuela, that is a country in South America, and since a very young age, I started trying to get into what I wanted to do. My interest in STEM was not very clear until later in my high school years, but since I was little, I remember clearly that my dad, none of my parents went to college, but my dad had a grocery store, and he indeed did all the accounting in a notebook, and he sit me beside him and asked me questions on the math, adding numbers, resting numbers, and all that kind of things. Okay? But it wasn't at Christmas when I was probably 6 or 7 years old that they got me a piano, because of course no one, not even myself, know what your interests are. And I got a piano from Santa. And Santa believed that I could be good at music. Still, 2 weeks after, the piano was broken apart. And it was broken apart because I took over every key, every string, and started trying to get into how it worked, okay? Of course, Santa was not very happy, but only told me years after that was not the intent of the piano. Later on in my high school years, for sure, and even this could happen to you, you don't know what you really like, or what exactly I really like. And it takes conversations, it takes reading, it takes searching, and many, many approaches. But in high school, we needed to do a project where we needed to produce something in our chemistry class. Our laboratory was not a very sophisticated one, and I knew that everyone in my class wanted to do a cream or a lotion, because for sure those materials were readily available in that lab, and it was just about mixing, and that's it, or at least in that basic setup that we had in the lab. Okay? For me, that was not what I wanted to do. I started looking for information, and my friend and I, because it was in pairs, asked the teacher if we could do something else, and she opened for us all the world of possibilities on different products that are really made out of chemistry. And for sure, at that time, we started looking for, okay, do we have equipment? And we started looking for some friends that studied in other schools and getting some equipment. I looked for a cousin that worked in the oil industry and started making questions. And at the end of the day, it was a lot of searching. And it was about trying to get into something that I believe was not made before in the setup that I was working, but it required a little bit of that curiosity and looking for that information for the application that we wanted. We ended up doing sunflower oil, extracting from alcohol. And it was funny because out of 2 pounds of seeds that we needed to green, that we needed to process, we spent probably 4 hours in the lab versus the 30 minutes my friends, the other friends spent doing the lotions. And after 4 hours, we got 2 drops of sunflower oil. Still, those 2 drops were like the miracle. And for me, it was the realization that that's something I wanted to do. I wanted to be close to something I could create from the beginning, that I could look for information how it works, that I could really transport. And I ended up debating even if I wanted to study chemistry as a science or being an engineer, because it was the balance of both things, what I saw in that experience. My teacher at that time told me that I could choose any. It was not very helpful either. But I could choose any because what she explained to me is something that you are going to hear from each one of us here in the panel. And is there are no 2 careers in STEM that are the same. And even in the same area, either chemistry or engineering, there are not even 2 careers that are the same. not even in the same company, there are careers that are the same. And that I could have, if curiosity is something that leads us, I would have the opportunity to change to what I wanted to do. And that's what exactly happened to me. I ended up studying chemical engineering in Simón Bolívar University, there in Caracas. The story continued because chemical engineering in my country serves the oil industry. All the subjects you see there are to be applied in the oil industry. And 4 years after, when I was looking for an internship, I ended up saying, hey, I don't want to go to the oil industry. What can I do? And P&G was offering, at the time, positions to be an intern. From the 130 students in the class, only 2 of us opted for a position in P&G. Other applications were not known at the time, and we ended up doing an internship there. I started in P&G doing femcare, and my project at the time was studying different compositions of sanitary pads, femcare pads, in terms of what are the materials, what are the properties of those materials, how the fluid can flow from the top to the bottom and can be retained inside. That was my first project. I stayed in P&G, and 3 years after, I moved to the quality assurance department. So I did a lot of work as well in trying to establish formulas and process controls at the plant. So it was a completely different application. Okay? Years after, I worked in fabric care, and it was more about how the chemistry processes work and the formulations work. And now here I am, 25 years after. I have experience in fem care, in baby care, in fabric care, in the pro research, in the pro development, and also in process development as well. I have enjoyed it a lot, and I could not have dreamed about any other thing to do. Indeed, I told my kids, if I'm not doing what I'm doing, I could be a singer. They say that I don't sing very well, so I better stay where I am. And 4 years ago, I came to the States. That's something that it was also as a result of the opportunity of working in STEM, working at P&G, and having all the experience that I have been developed. The reason why I'm sharing this is because the applications can be multiple. If I describe my work today, or what I have been doing over the last 50 years or more, my work starts with talking to people, talking to girls like you, trying to understand what do you like about the products, what you don't like about the products, what works, what doesn't work. I go back to the lab. I try to modify our formulas to make the product work. And then I study the properties of the materials, the layers, the composition. I do tests, okay? We redesign, upgrade products. And once that is done, I go back to people and we test our products. We use statistics to analyze that data, okay? And once we have results, we work with the materials organizations in our building to transform that to our plants and our processes, okay? We prepare formula cards, we prepare instructions for the plant, and we work with the plant to make that massively available for all of us, okay? But there is one other age that no one knows that we do, and it's the translation of everything that is in that product and what we can say about that product. So the reason why I love my work is because it balances a lot of science, from really chemical engineering, but also from, I would say, basis of psychology and anthropology as well, with how we communicate that. I work with the commercial departments, with the marketing organization, in how we can make claims about our products. Why we can say our products last up to 12 hours, for example. There are a lot of testing that we need to do, and I'm the one leading and coordinating my team to generate the data to do so. It's been a long journey, and again, I'm very grateful for again, since the beginning, my parents, my teachers, my partners, my peers, and for sure for P&G, I mean, for all the opportunities I have had. Working in STEM has been working in different careers through all my career, and having the opportunity to apply that in different areas. One of the challenges, for sure, I faced growing in STEM, growing a career as an engineer as well, has to do with not only, as Melissa was saying, have your voice being heard, okay? But also has to do in terms of sometimes you feel you are in a position where you need to prove yourself harder to others and generate more data or prepare more for presentations or managing these different conversations. One of the key learnings through the years is that the strength of us in STEM also comes as the strength of the group and the network that you create. There are other women in your groups that can help you, guide you through the conversations, or even support you during the conversation in the room. But also there is networking that we go outside. Yes, I have had male mentors as well. And it's more about, hey, bouncing messages, or how to approach questions and so on. Net, I mean, this is indeed to share our experience, but really to tell you that the sky is the limit. And yes, we hear that every day, but each one of us can tell you we have reached a sky or a different level or different places in the sky based on our experiences and in our career, because none of our careers are the same, and we are here to share what really gets us passionate about. That's what I wanted to share with you.
Okay, I want to ask a favor of everybody. I want everybody to stand up for a second. Everybody stand up and take a really big stretch, because I know it's Monday morning and these ladies are sharing such amazing things. I want to make sure you don't miss any of them and what they've got to say, because I know it's easy to get cozy in your seats and get your hoods up and pull your phones out. I'd like you to do one more thing. Pull your phones out. I'd like you to take a picture of the lovely ladies to my right. You're going to step out of the way. Take a picture. And then I would like you to tweet it out, send it out through Instagram, send it out through Facebook, send it out through something, and let everybody know that you had the opportunity this morning to see some amazing women from STEM fields speak to you today about the opportunities that could lie ahead of you in your future. Okay, when you're ready, sit back down, put those phones away, and we'll be ready for our next speaker. Oh, yep, we'll do the video now. Give me just a second here. Yep, go right ahead now.
So I just wanted to reiterate while we're getting this video a couple of things that you heard. One was the question about voice, and for women in particular, women's voices being heard, whether it's in STEM or not in STEM. So this is not unique to STEM, but unique to women. Our voices are often not heard. There's a great book called Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg. Sheryl Sandberg is the chief operating officer, so one of the top people at the company for Facebook. And Sheryl wrote this great book called Lean In. It's about women, work, and the will to lead. And she gets into things like women oftentimes don't make their voice heard. So sometimes you have to work a little harder because you're a woman to make your voice be heard. That's okay. Lean in, take a seat at the table. They say, think about a room where you walk in and there's a table, and maybe there are 10 chairs around it, and there are 14 people come into the meeting. The women, data will show, will tend to take a chair off to the side and not at the table. And Sheryl will tell you, that's a mistake. Take a seat at the table. You go into a meeting and they say, okay, who's gonna take notes? They always look to the woman. I've been in many leadership teams where I'm the only woman, and they'll go, okay, Shelly, you take notes. And I'll be, fine, I'll take notes today. Next meeting, they say, who's taking notes? I'm like, I took it last time. Bill, it's your turn. Joe, it's your turn. Like, when you take notes in a meeting, well, I used to do that because I thought I wanted the power of the pen. You're actually taking yourself out of engagement in the meeting because you're busy recording the notes. So it's fine to take your turn, but don't do what they call office housework. Don't be the person who does the things like taking the notes or scheduling the meetings. Take your fair share, but don't default to doing those things. And Barbara made a point about data, and you need to sometimes have more data. Sometimes because you're a woman, you have to work a little harder to have your voice be heard, to have a little more data so that you have the credibility so people believe you. I have been in meetings, this is not made up, where a woman says something and then you continue on the conversation, and then a few minutes later a man says the same thing the woman said. When the woman said it, nobody says anything. When the man says it, and you see people shaking their heads up here, people are like, man, Mike, that's a great idea. And they like completely ignore the fact that the woman said it. What you can do, being a woman, is amplify the voice of other women. When you hear Barbara make a great comment and then nobody says anything, you can say, going back to what Barbara said, that was awesome. And maybe when people hear it a second time and you're acknowledging, it's not your idea, it came from Barbara. So there are little tips and tricks that you can do. Again, not unique to STEM, but by being a woman, that apply in STEM in particular, I would say, because STEM is still, unfortunately, a male-dominated world, which means there are great opportunities for women, and there's a tremendous amount of research out there that shows that companies that are diverse are more successful than companies that are not diverse. And so if you look at a company of mostly men, it's going to be less successful than a company that's mixed men and women. That's one aspect. Gender is one aspect of diversity. And so we need to make sure that our voices are heard, that we're at the table, and that we're active participants. So sorry about that for the delay. So we're going to play a video now that Dr. Prabhakar from University of Cincinnati, who couldn't join us in person today, and two of her former students are going to talk. So it's about 7 minutes long, but I think you'll find this very interesting.
Okay. Probably more interesting if you can hear it. Jason, you got any ideas for me?
Unplug the headphone jack cord. Plug it in.
Okay, hold that thought.
Yeah, let me mute it back there.
Any questions while we're sitting here? Any of the speakers? Oh, got a hand over here. I heard the part about what advice would you give to us if you want to go into the STEM field? And she said any of you are welcome to answer that.
I'll go. So one of the things that I would say is you have to have a fight, because it's not an easy field. But if this is what you really want to do, you have to just keep doing it. Because there's this thing called Imposter Syndrome that basically in your mind it tells you that you cannot do this, or you're not ready, or everyone is smarter around you. But in STEM, you're there for a reason. You're there for your voice, just like every woman just said. So have that fight and and have that person or you telling yourself, I can do this, even if it's hard, I can do this. And once you get to that point, STEM becomes easy, and it becomes better because now you have that grit that says, I'll fight you learning something new, because I don't think any woman up here can say that it's been the same thing since college. STEM is a revolution, so everything changes every day. But if you constantly have that grit that says, I can do this, all right, let me take this one by one, and let me just go at it and fight it. So just always have that fight in STEM and be able to learn, because the ones that learn are the ones that take a step further. But the ones that take in all of that negativity in your mind are the ones that you actually leave behind. So just fight.
And building on what Leah just said, there's, again, in that book, Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg, there's data that says if there's a job out there, as an example, that has 5 job qualifications, a woman may look at that and say, okay, I've got qualification 1 and 2 and 3, but I don't have 4 and 5, so I'm not going to apply. And she takes herself out of the game. Whereas a man will look at that and say, there are 5 qualifications. I've got 1, I'm going for it. So what just happened? That guy might get the job because he had 1 qualification, but he went for it. So to Leah's point, don't take yourself out of the game. They say fake it until you make it. So have the confidence, get out there and just do it. So, sorry, Leah said, no. Anybody else?
Well, I would say stay curious, because just like your point, the curiosity will allow you to continue learning. And this is the time that I can tell you myself, I continue learning. I don't come from a STEM career. I'm coming from business, but now I'm working with technology, and for me it's a constant. Then the second one that I would tell you is be out of your comfort zone. Dare to be out of your comfort zone, because that's where the true growing and learning happens, and that's what you will flourish. And then stay informed, right? I mean, whatever you would like to do within the STEM career, look for teachers, look for mentors, look for these wonderful women that are sitting here that will share with you what you have made. So that's, I think those are my 3 tips for you to do.
I think she had a question right next to her.
What's the one thing that you would change besides the male dog?
The question was, what's one thing you would change besides the male dominance? Is that what I heard? Okay.
Great question. I'll take that one. I would say access to education. It is there. It exists. Everyone can access education in this area. Everyone can do a job shadow with most of us. And there's lots of other people in the city. You can go to free summer camps, and there's all this other stuff that's available, but it's not perceived as accessible to a lot of people. And it wasn't for me either. Like, I kind of had to fight and figure things out and talk to like 3 different counselors before I figured out that there was College Credit Plus. Like, those things seem to be a little hidden. So I wish that those things were just communicated better, and that there was more access for everyone.
And I would add on to that, just more than one person has said, talk to people, ask questions. The more people you get to know, the more opportunities you'll learn about, the more potential advocates you'll find. If somebody finds out you're interested in math, maybe you have a conversation with them and you don't talk to them on a regular basis, but later on, they'll figure out there's a summer camp opportunity, and they'll remember you, and they'll reach out to you, and you would have never known about that if you had not talked to that person. There's so many networking things that happen like that, and I mean, it benefits both sides, really. I mean, and it also helps you not just with networking and getting hooked up with opportunities, but learning what opportunities there are for you, or if you don't know what you want to study, which is a big problem for me, talk to different people, hear about what they do, see if one of those kind of catches your interest, and it gives you something to go investigate further.
To add on to that, I would just say develop mentoring relationships, because I think whether it's your professor, whether it's a business professional, whether it's just someone you meet, sometimes those relationships will help you as you go further along, and especially while you're trying to find out what you want to do, they can sometimes coach and give you advice. And it's okay to tell them that you don't know what you want to do, but it also will give them an opportunity to help share experiences and share information with you. And as she said, they will sometimes be aware of opportunities or things that they can direct you to give you the chance to find out if you really like it.
And the final comment there is that discomfort feeling will be with you forever. As I was saying, there are no careers that are the same. I found myself in times where I asked, oh, I should have done that, I should have studied something different, I should have taken this role. And that will be with you and with us all the time. It's important to know that when you make a decision of moving into a STEM career, that's not like you are going to do the same type of things for the rest of your life, because that sometimes that thought can get you up to a place where you feel hopeless. That constant looking for yourself, that constant discomfort is indeed healthy for you to keep for something else. And if this doesn't work, keep going. Try something else. Be cool about that. And again, that beside the learning is the constant looking for what you want to do. For sure, some of us have stayed in the roles we have had for many years, and there are also good examples there. But don't feel the pressure that if you make a decision on a career, that will be forever and the rest of your life, because you will always be learning about it.
And I think that even though you listen from all of us, it's not going to be the same for you. So try just to find what, it comes from you, what you really like.
How many of you have a mentor? Stand up if you have a mentor today. Stand up if you know what a mentor is or how you would use one. Okay, so we have some work to do there. We can talk some more about that as we go through.
Well, all I know, I heard job shadow in there.
Yeah.
I'm like, that excited me.
Yeah.
The awesome thing about this is, as we've been working through this, I know we have been building a really great relationship, but we want the relationship to grow. And you all are going to be the recipients of what comes in the next 2 or 3 years. And then, of course, the students beyond that will benefit as well. We ready for the video?
Yeah.
Did you have something you wanted to add, Mr. Sullivan?
Just in the future, when they're talking, could you pass
The microphone. Yep, I realized that as soon as yes.
If I were to give advice to my former self in high school, I would say,
Hello everyone, I am Dr. Anu Prabhakar. I am a faculty in the School of IT at University of Cincinnati. I have been teaching at UC for a long time, almost 20 years. I usually teach programming, web development, and topics like that. I'm originally from India. I came to study my master's in computer science here. Before that, I had an undergraduate degree in engineering. IT is a wonderful field for women because you can pursue your passion. If you like to be a fashion designer, you can be an IT professional in that field. If you want to be in healthcare, you can work in the hospital system. If you want to be an educator, you can work in a university doing their IT work. So it's a wonderful field, it's a creative field, so I would encourage everybody to pursue this field. Now I'm joined by 2 of my wonderful former students, Sabrina and Angelica. They did very well in the school and also they are doing wonderfully professionally. So they would tell you what motivated them to be an IT professional and some of the advice for you. So without further delay, Angelica, if you can go ahead and talk, that would be great.
Yes, thank you, Professor Prabhakar. My name is Angelique Modell. I'm currently an engineer at Boston Insurance Company. I went to Park Montessori High School. I first became interested in technology by learning HTML for social media. I became interested in technology through the National Center of Women in Tech and their Award for Aspirations in Computing Award, which is an award for women in IT in high school to encourage their passion in learning different technologies. Through finding that community, I was able to kind of self-study IT and other programming languages. I would highly encourage anyone to apply for that award. It has opened so many opportunities for me, even now, 10 years after graduating high school. When it came to the college decision and where I should go after high school, I pursued an IT degree at the University of Cincinnati. I was encouraged by my parents to pursue this IT degree. Highly recommend speaking with myself or Sabrina about potential opportunities in the space, so you can learn, like, personally, or someone that you know, you can learn about the different areas within IT. At school, I was heavily involved with different student organizations, including the Women in Technology group, as well as co-op. So I was able to work during my IT degree in Cleveland and the Cincinnati area, which were paid opportunities with housing included. So to get the experience of working in school on real IT projects, high impact, and gain that confidence in school. You know, this experience definitely shaped me in my professional career, who I am today. Post-program, I am now working as IT engineer at also an insurance company, which has set me up for further professional success. If I were to give advice to my former self in high school, I would say just be always networking and forming your community, whether it be through IT co-ops, joining women in technology groups, or other organizations that you resonate with as an individual. With that, I'd like to turn it over back to Professor Prabhakar.
All right, thank you, Angelica. Now, I would welcome Sabrina to talk about her experience.
Thank you, Professor Prabhakar. My name is Sabrina Donaldson, and I'm currently a server engineer at TriHealth, which is a healthcare system here in Cincinnati, Ohio. I went to East High School in Youngstown, Ohio, and we didn't have a STEM program or curriculum there. The most we had at that time probably was just like a typewriter. And so I would say my love for technology came from working around the house at my grandmother's house, fixing her VCR when it would not play the VCR tapes. Also trying to fix my video game system, which was Nintendo at the time, blowing the cartridges to make it work, and just wanting to know more about how electronics work. And that's how I kind of decided after high school to go to the University of Cincinnati to pursue a degree in information engineering. And during my time there, I would say that college was not easy. Fun, but not easy. You have to be dedicated and determined. I always stayed in the computer lab to gain extra help. I stayed in the math lab to gain extra help. But during that time, I was able to surround myself with women such as Angelica and Professor Prabhakar through a group by the name of Women in Technology, which is a diverse group for women to allow us to be around like-minded professionals and people who are pursuing their degree. I also, during that time, co-opted at Duke Energy. Well, it was Synergy at the time, but Duke Energy now. And enjoyed that time there because I was able to get a feel for what technology is like. I would also say that I pursued technology because, one, it's very interesting, it's innovative, it's always moving forward, and you get to make a lot of money. And that, for me, is a big win. I would say that if I wanted to say something to my former self in high school, I would always, like Angelica said, surround myself with like-minded people who are obtaining the same goals as myself. Networking is key. I would stay very strong in my studies and take it very seriously, and read as much as you can. Also, if you guys have any questions or concerns or need any advice, please feel to reach out to me, Angelique, or Professor Prabhakar. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sabrina. That was really wonderful. Thank you to both of you and everybody. As Angelique and Sabrina said, they will be happy to help you, and I would be happy to help you too. So we would give you our contact information. So thank you very much. Thank you, Sabrina and Angelique. It was fun talking to you.
Thank you. You
Thank
as
you.
well.
Morning. I'm Marcia Asari. I work at General Electric, GE Aviation actually. I'm a mechanical engineer and I love engines. I thought I would start off by telling you a little bit about what I do, and then I can tell you more about my background and how I got here. But a lot of people drive by GE, they live in Cincinnati, they've lived here a long time, they have no idea what we do. We make aircraft engines. We make engines that go on airplanes that not only take people on vacations, but they fly cargo like all over the world. So lately with COVID, there's been a big reduction in travel. But you know what? People need equipment. People need face masks, ventilators. Our engines are taking those things all over the world. That's one of the things I love about what I do, is that I'm not a nurse, I'm not a firefighter or a teacher, but I'm helping people because I'm making engines that are safe. And I'm making engines that are more efficient. So one of the other things about me is that I love the outdoors. I love the planet. I'm really worried about the environment. And everything that we do pretty much as humans seems like it's polluting it or corrupting it or something, but I've come to realize that technology can help us use resources more wisely so that we're not contaminating the earth as much. So one of the things I'm working on now is you guys probably don't hear aviation news, but we just certified a really big engine. If I stood in the front of the engine, it would be taller than me. I could put my hands up here, and I still would not be like as big as the front of the engine. And that's great, and it's more fuel efficient, so we're going to save a lot of gas when those airplanes go flying all over the world. But that's not good enough because it's still burning fuel, and there's not that much fuel left in the world. It's a finite resource. So now one of the things we're working on is hybrid electric aircraft engines. So I know everybody's seen cars driving around that are hybrid electric aircraft engines. Can you imagine that? So you can't, like, when you're flying around, you can't plug in somewhere. So it's a really big challenge. It's probably going to be like 10 or 15 years before we actually have an engine that works, that's going to be on an airplane flying around. But I'm going to be working on that, and that really excites me. So where am I from? How did I get to be doing what I'm doing? I grew up outside Washington, D.C. I went to high school in Maryland, and I always kind of had an interest in math. My mom's a math teacher. My dad's an engineer. So it wasn't a big surprise. I was pretty good at math. I like puzzles, and I noticed that there's like a lot of patterns in math, and even in when I started taking science classes, I took biology, chemistry, physics. When I got to physics, it was like equations and patterns. It wasn't, biology and chemistry was memorization, which I didn't enjoy quite as much as solving the puzzles. But I had this teacher in high school, she taught physics, and she was this little lady, Miss Talat. She was probably shorter than me. Everybody loved her. Everybody respected her. All the guys thought she was great. And she would get excited about physics, which sounds like it might be kind of boring. But she would show us equations for how you can calculate, like if you launch a cannonball, where it's going to land, or how high it's going to go up in the air before it lands. And she would draw these little pictures of the Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote to help us solve these equations. And when you put it in real terms like that, like, okay, well, Wiley is trying to get the Roadrunner, and he knows the Roadrunner is going to be over there. You know, how high does he have to launch this thing in order to catch it? And you realize it's real problems you're trying to solve. You're using math, you're using physics, but it's not just like some equation. It's like you're really trying to figure something out. And I really enjoyed understanding how things worked. Like, hey, I see that car traveling over there. It's stopping at the stop sign. I can tell you, you know, like how long it's going to take before it stops if you tell me how fast it was moving when they first started putting the brakes on. Like, I think it's cool that you can figure that stuff out and you can explain it. So I decided that after I really liked physics that I wanted to study engineering. I didn't know what kind of engineering I wanted to study, so I started looking because I went to Virginia Tech because it was at about a 5-hour drive from where I went to high school. It wasn't too far from my family, but it was still far enough away that they couldn't come visit me on weekends. And I started studying engineering, and in my first year they made you decide like what specific field of engineering you wanted to go into. And I wasn't really sure, so I picked mechanical engineering because it was like, seemed like it was the broadest. It was like I was picking a major, but not really, because there were so many different things you could do within mechanical engineering that I knew I could like kind of change my mind within there. But what I found that I really liked was thermodynamics and fluid flow and heat transfer. So not so much like designing parts, designing widgets, but trying to understand how the air moves around, how streams work, how heat gets transferred from like the inside of an engine through the air conditioning system in your car. So that's what I decided to specialize in. And there were not very many women in that field. So within the different parts of engineering, there was some majors that had a lot more girls than others. Mine, out of a class of 150, there were 10 of us. So a lot of my classes, I was the only girl. I remember very vividly, I had to take physics again in college, and I was in a physics class my freshman year, and there was a guy that always called me nerd girl, which I really didn't like that much, but I didn't want to show my emotions, I didn't want to show that it bothered me, so I let it roll. But what I realized throughout that semester was he used to go out and party a lot, and he didn't always do his work. And so he got kind of behind, and he had like a C, and he was thinking he might fail this class, whereas, yeah, I went to parties with my friends, but I did my work. And I stayed on top of stuff. I didn't like stay up past midnight trying to get my work done and then still try to get to an 8 o'clock class. And what I realized at the end of the semester was, so I earned an A in the class, and so that made me exempt. I didn't have to take the exam. And this guy that always called me nerd girl, he had a C and he was going to fail unless he like crammed for an exam and did really good. He was jealous of me. And the reason he called me nerd girl is because he respected that I was smart. And by the end of the semester, he realized that I had used a lot more common sense in how I studied and how I got ready and learned the material, and he had messed up. And so we learned something from each other. I learned that just because somebody says something that sounds negative to me, it might not be really the way they meant it. And he learned that if he studied better, then he could succeed. So I kept that in mind also, because his mistake kind of taught me, that reinforced what I was doing was right and I was on the right track. And then after I finished college, I still had to figure out like what kind of job did I want to get and what did I want to do, and I wasn't sure. So a whole bunch of different companies came to campus, and this one company made diesel engines, and they said they were looking for engineers. And I said, okay, that sounds okay. I think I can try that, because it had a little bit of the thermodynamics and heat transfer in it that I thought I liked, but I didn't know any jobs with that. Like, what do you do with that? And I was worried that I was going to specialize in this field and I wouldn't be able to get a job because nobody wanted anybody that did that. So I took this job at Cummins in southern Indiana, which is not that far from here. And I realized there's thermodynamics and heat transfer like all over the place. Like all these components for processes, like P&G probably has machines in their lines that make their products that need this stuff. The oil industry wanted engineers that knew about heat transfer thermodynamics, but engine manufacturers wanted us too. And I thought engines were really neat because they're this entity that probably encompasses almost every area of engineering. You have to understand like how to design parts, you have to understand how the air is moving through the engine, you have to understand the safety aspects, you have to understand like so much, and it's all these groups of people that work together. And I gotta tell you, these systems are so complicated. The technology in this world, you always have something new to learn, and you can't do anything by yourself. I know there's been a big focus with teamwork in school lately, which is not what happened when I was in school. And it's so important because I am really good at what I do, but I could not tell you anything about what some of these other ladies do. And in particular, where I work, like, there's expertise that you need to kind of understand what other people's expertise is or how their component works, because it might interact with what you're working on. But you can't know everything. You can't know all the expertise for every component. So you get really good at what you do, and then you know who to talk to about the other things that you don't quite understand. And after a while, people come to you and ask you about what they know you're really good at. And if you're a good team player and you can communicate well, then you can you can help explain what the problems are and how they impact the whole system. And in particular, when it comes to women, what I found is I think women are much better about communicating. And I think we're much better about being patient and explaining things and listening. And a lot of times men kind of don't really listen, or they pretend like they're listening and they're asking, but really they're just trying to satisfy themselves. And also the push that companies have today for trying to have more diverse workforces, I think they're starting to realize that the skills that women bring in terms of the listening and the communication are very valuable and very important when it comes to trying to solve problems in particular, or just working together on a regular basis. So I guess what I would tell you all is, I think we already mentioned, just keep learning, keep asking questions. I still wonder myself on a weekly basis, what do I want to do with my life? You know, here I am, I'm 47 years old, you would think I already knew it all. No. I still have career choices I can make, I can still learn about stuff in my own spare time, what I want to do. So just keep learning, keep asking. The other thing I wanted to mention to you, because I haven't heard anybody else address it, is, the traditional aspect of women has not been to have a full-time job. It's been to at least be part-time or stay home full-time. And so a little bit more about what my story is. So I graduated from college and I started work full-time. I met a man, ended up getting married, and then we decided we want to have children. And I found out I was having twins. So my initial plan was that I was going to work part-time when I had a baby, and then I realized, 2 babies, that means double the daycare bill and double the activities at home. And you know what? I'm not even really sure I want a daycare to take care of my kids. I want to have the experience to be with my kids. So I quit my job. And I stayed at home for 6.5 years until my twins started, first grade is when I went back to work part-time. And so I have been back to work part-time for 7 years. And I'm planning on staying part-time for the next several years at least. My twins are actually in 8th grade here at the middle school. And probably about the time they're getting ready to go to college is when I'll probably go full-time. But that has been a little bit of a challenge for me, and it's not because the part-time is a little bit of a challenge just because I feel like I'm constantly juggling what needs to get done with work and what needs to get done at home. But also I would say the fact that I took the 6-year break has been a little bit of a challenge because I feel like I kind of missed a little bit. There was a lot of people that I started off with when I first went to work for GE that didn't quit and stayed working, and even though I felt like a lot of things fell back into place pretty easily when I went back to work because industry didn't change that much. They were learning while I wasn't. I was at home learning about different things. So I feel like that's been kind of a challenge for me, is to get in my mind to still have the confidence that I'm still learning and I'm still valuable, even though I missed out on that time when I stayed at home. But I will also tell you that time that I was at home, my former boss and former coworkers kept calling me, can you come back yet? Can you come back yet? Because they wanted me to come back, and they were very happy when I was ready to come back. So. Thanks.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias, for those who speak Spanish. My story is a little bit different, and I think I mentioned this previously. I study business. I am not in the STEM career, but thank you to P&G, I have been exposed to STEM for the last 12 years. So let me give you a little bit of my background. I born in Peru, and I started working in P&G in Peru. I just studied business because when I was in high school, to be quite honest, I didn't know what to study. So my parents made a good selection, and I had two choices, or business or accounting. Because for them, based on their experience, that will be the career that will get me a job. So I went through business, and I love it. I have to say that they were smart enough to know me, and I really enjoyed it. My major was finance, so when I started in P&G, actually I started in P&G where I was in the university. I started as a secretary of the finance director, because I knew a little bit of computer, and I took the course for secretary when I was in high school, so I opted to be a contractor, being a secretary that was replacing all the other secretaries while they were on vacations. And when I was on my third year as a secretary, I was finishing my career in the university. So I talked to my managers and I asked them for an opportunity. And they told me, yeah. So I took the test and I moved into the finance forecast role. So since there, I have been in finance. I have now 25 years in the company. So 12 years ago, I started moving or working with IT teams in different projects. And I have been, amazed of how or all the innovations that we have gone through in finance with technology. So it was 6 months ago. Now I'm going to talk about my challenges and actually my fears when I was proposed for a role that was more into IT. So my manager came and told me, Susan, now that you are finishing your project manager role, you are going to be moved to data and analytics. So this is a new role that we want you to develop more on the IT side, okay? So I was listening, but while he was talking, the first thing that came to my mind, it was, you are not going to be able to make it. You are not IT. You don't understand. So he continued talking and he continued saying, we know that you will be successful in the role. I was like, I won't be successful in the role. How can you say that? Okay, so my first fear, I was not confident. I was not confident that I was able to make it. And 7 months after, I can tell you that with a lot of work, a lot of education, because it doesn't matter if I'm 25 or 26 years in the company, I can continue learning. I'm doing it, and I'm surprised about it, but I'm doing it. So be confident. We all can do whatever we wanted. The tip number 2 that I want to give you, or the fear number 2, was if I don't understand it, how am I going to develop? So what did I do? I went to my mentors, and I have to tell you that women has, helped me. They lift me up. They helped me a lot. I went to all my IT friends and IT mentors to share with them all my doubts, to share with them all my questions, and they were there. Anytime that there was a course or maybe something outside that I should take for me to continue learning for my role, they took me or they called me. Susan, you should be doing this. Susan, you should be doing that. So the power of networking is super good. And then women helping other women, that works. The fear number 3, I will say, or challenge number 3 was, okay, so now I'm learning. So now, I'm getting the right networking and I'm getting the right support. How am I going to lead people that maybe are much better than I am where I am? So going to your point, I don't need to know everything. I was there for a reason, and they were there for a reason, and everybody is a team. So don't judge on yourself if there's something that you don't know. We don't have to know everything. So that's something very important, because I think sometimes we are so hard on us that unless I really know everything, I wouldn't consider myself for that specific role. And that goes to your comment, Shelly, on the Lean Circle book. And then, last but not least, I will repeat what I told you. Be out of your comfort zone. I mean, for me, being in this role, with a request of different skills, the ones that I have, which is more finance, more numbers, but now more into the technology, allowing me the chance to feel uncomfortable, it has been the greatest gift that the company and myself, I could give it to me, because I have learned a lot. And technology, it's a world of possibilities, and it's continuous learning, right? Nothing is like it was 10 years ago. Everybody has phones. I mean, I can show you the phone that I used to have. It's nothing similar than the iPhones or Samsungs that you may have today. So everything is going to change. Today we are here talking to you. When you are in college, maybe you will remember, oh yeah, I went to that conference. Oh, and they were talking about XYZ. That changed. It's not going to be the same. So embracing this curiosity, embracing this willing to continue learning will take you to wherever you want to be. So that's what I wanted to share with you. Thank you.
Doing that, I'm gonna need everyone to sit up because it's gonna throw me off if y'all like sleeping and all of that. So everyone sit up, shake it off, because I know me, I get a little antsy when I sit down too, so you guys will see me start dancing and just dance, like gotta get it out of me. So sit up, guys. All right, now since we're up, hi everyone, I am Leah Kite. If you can already tell, I have a southern accent. I am originally from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I love crawfish and I love seafood. I went to a historically black college university. Who all knows what that is? All right, so I went to the Southern University. We have the best band in the land, the Jukebox. And so I want to start mine off with every journey in my life that has made me who I am. So I'll start it off with who all likes math. Okay, we have a couple of contendants. Okay. So I come from a family of all educators. And my mom is also in IT where they all love math and science. Well, growing up, I did not like math because I kept seeing a bunch of numbers and I said, what is this? In Louisiana, there's a standardized test that basically tells you if you pass or fail, you go on to the next grade. I actually failed that test, and it was all in math. And I had this coach, Coach Mack, who taught math, and we spent the entire summer because I had to go to the next grade. And he said, Leah, one thing about you, you keep looking at the numbers and you're like, whoa, I can't do this. So he spent the whole summer teaching me how to break down numbers and how to problem solve and how to understand that even though it's a big thing to you in your head, if you break it down, it becomes smaller and then you can understand it. And so Coach Mack was the first person that actually showed me that I can do it. And so once then, I went on to start passing all my math classes. My mom was already in IT, so I was helping her at the university where she worked. So I was working on computers constantly, and I was like, wait, I actually like doing this. This is something that I can enjoy doing. So I went to Coach Mack and I said, hey, I really like working on computers. Do you think that during one of my class periods, I don't have to go to the class, I can just do IT work? He said, yeah, of course. Just start working on the computers because we just laid off our IT person. So I actually became the IT manager for my high school, and that was my first job. I'm gonna try to open my computer so I can have the questions out. And so that was my high school experience, always working on laptops. My grandmother told me she didn't know how to do PowerPoint or Word, so I started doing library sessions with senior citizens, mostly my grandmother friends, because I got tired of them asking me questions on how to use Microsoft Word. So that was another thing on my resume. And then senior year, it was, okay, Leah, you know that you like math now, you like science, you like computers. Here's a major that I think you will really like. I took my first programming class that summer, and I said, this is super good. I love seeing the colors on the website. I love actually seeing my work. It was an instant gratification being able to code and being able to problem solve and just see it come to life. So Coach Mack said, hey Leah, computer science is a thing, and I think you should go into it. So I went into programming, I went into computer science at Southern University A&M College. My first day in class, I thought it was okay. I came in with like this pink, it was a really cute outfit. And I was just waving, super happy to be in class for my first day.
And my teacher looks at me and says, hey, the marketing class is upstairs. And I was just like, wait, what? I'm here for my first programming class. And he's like, yeah, no, I think you're here for marketing. So I get in class, his first statement says, hey, I know that I see a bunch of women in here. You guys, if you're trying to find a husband, you can stay for a couple times, but if you're really trying to make this out of a career, I think you should rethink it. That moment was, I'm about to prove this man wrong. Because he does not know that I've been programming for the last 2 years, and I probably know more than the boy that's sitting next to me. So he had this thing that he would make us compete with each other. Honestly, the worst professor ever. But if I turn around, he's actually one of my favorite professors. And it's because those competitions constantly made me be like, I want to beat these boys in my class. I want to be better, and I want to prove to him that I'm not here to find a husband, but I'm here so that I can be successful. And that Coach Mac, my mom, my grandmother, my teachers had already told me that I was great. And that's what you need to do. You have to find that favorite teacher, because sometimes when you go home or sometimes when you're around your friends, and I always didn't have the best friends. I'm from a predominantly black area, so I am constantly seeing the street. I am constantly seeing people getting shot. I'm constantly seeing my friends having babies. And so if you're constantly around that world, you end up going into that world. But I had people around me that kept saying, Leah, you're in Girl Scouts. Leah, this is your mom. You have to be better than what your surroundings are telling you to be. So I spent my college reminding myself, I cannot be the person that everyone around me wants me to be. I want to be the person that they think I can be. I want to be better than that person. And so I proved to Dr. Allen that I was actually better than everyone in my class. And every class that I had in college, in computer science, I made an A because I wanted to constantly prove to my professors that I was better and that I was good. And so when someone asks the question, what was the first challenge? It's yourself. Because you can easily put yourself down and say, I should not be here, or I'm not ready. But if you have that fight and you have that grit to say, I want to be successful, that's the biggest push in the world. That would get you more than anything. And I know one of the questions says, so then you graduated from college, how did you get into your field? Graduated from college with honors. I did a bunch of internships during college. Some of the stuff that you learn in college, the career world is already ahead of that. So I spent a lot of my downtime learning new skills. One thing I've learned, a lot of people say there's just like initial smart people that they don't have to study and they just get it. I'm not that person. So I have to spend a lot of time studying. I have to spend a lot of time breaking down the situation, because if it's a big situation, I won't get it. And so I got in my internship. I did really well because I know how to problem solve. I spent a lot of my years problem solving, and that became a brand. If you guys are not familiar with what a brand is what you want to be known as. And so my brand now is Leah can solve a problem. She can execute a problem, and she knows how to ask the right questions to make a big problem to a small problem. And that's all because of my experience through life. So GE came to the campus. It was GE's first time on campus. And I interviewed. Didn't even know what GE was. So I spent the time, I looked it up, I saw that they did appliances, didn't even put two and two together. And so when I went in my interview, I started talking about how if I'm working with GE, I have to understand the market. I have to understand how to connect with people, because GE works with a lot of people. We work with healthcare, we work with aviation. So it's a people place. And so I was able to use my social skills to help me get into the door. I was the first hire from GE at my university. That was the first time they were there. I got into their leadership program, and being a girl from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, we really don't get out. So GE sent me to Connecticut. And that was a culture shock. This Southern girl getting on the elevator like, good morning, y'all. It was different. They didn't have soul food. I ate chicken tenders every day. It was just a whole new thing, but it also brought me out of my comfort zone. I know someone said that, get out of your comfort zone, it'll help you fight. And that was the one big thing that when I went away, I made sure to keep fighting. Every rotation that I had, I made sure that I proved to everyone wrong, that I was great. I was what everyone kept saying, Leah, you are great. Leah, if you break down this problem, you will be great. And every rotation I executed, I did really great. Then fast forward to me now, did software engineering for a little while, so I coded a little bit. Who knows what coding is? Oh, good. Oh, this is a good class, all right. So I spent a lot of time coding, and then I started missing people. I didn't really like my team at the time. It was very male-dominated. And I said, well, let me take a break from coding and let me go do project management, because I'm noticing that I need to work on my communication skills, I need to work on my organization skills, and project management is the place. And I know someone on the panel said that, you know, IT is a big role and you can just move around. It is. Whatever you think you want to do, ask your boss about it and they'll put you in it. And so I went into project management. I am the youngest person, I am the only black person, and I am the only woman in my group, surrounded on a whole bunch of old white men. And they were constantly asking me how old I am. And I am like, yo, I'm young. You can already tell that I am super young. And so that's another fear where it's just, you're sitting in this room, everyone's already know that you're young. They're trying to figure out, how did you get to this table? How are you over us? And I had to fight. I'm still fighting. I fight every day. I fight with my mind. Every time my mind tells me you should not be there, I reply and say, yes, I should. There are days where I don't have the confidence that I'm supposed to have, and I have to push myself, or I have to fake it, fake that I have confidence, go home and study, and then come back and say, okay, I'm ready. Throw anything at me, I'll do it. And so, you see, you have my matriculation from high school, not knowing math, to then knowing math, to then going to college, to having someone tell me that I was trying to find a husband, to then me proving to them that I can actually do that, to then going into my workforce and still having to prove myself, still learning, still taking those mental breaks to tell myself, I am who I am and I know why I'm here. And so if you keep that mindset, you guys are going to be successful. And if you want to go in STEM, no one's talked about it, but I make more than my parents. And that's a lot of money in there. And where I'm from, we don't make that type of money. And it's new to me, but hey, I get to travel the world, I get to see the world, but I'm also doing something that I love, and that's problem solving. And that's always fixing something. So think about your purpose, fight, have that grit, never give up. I feel like I'm saying the same thing that a lot of people say in their speeches, but it's real. It's not something that I'm just saying just to motivate you. It's something that I will constantly have to fight with myself. And that's being who I say I am and being the person that I know I can be. So looking forward to the success stories to you guys. I'm here. I'm going to open it up for questions. I like you. You have a lot of questions.
It's not really directed to you, anybody can answer this, but what are some benefits of your job?
Benefits of my job. Being able to get on the airplane and see that that's an engine that I helped. I didn't directly build the engine, but I was able to see it. Healthcare. When you go into the hospital, you see GE everywhere. That's the benefit of seeing something that you're working on. Another benefit is I get to talk to you guys a lot. So I work a lot with young girls, and it's because someone worked with me. And so having a job where you love it, but then also being able to sit in the room and speak, that's another benefit. And then just being able to have fun. There's a bunch of, even though we talk about it's a male-dominant field, it sucks to be around a whole bunch of men, it's also super duper fun. They're really fun when they're being nice. So that's another benefit. Once you get in and once you get past yourself, it is super fun. The fact that I'm going in the airplane and people are flying on it, the fact that, when GE was doing appliances, it's in everyone's house. Granted, my family thinks I can fix everything in their house. That's not true. But to see stuff that you work on is the benefit. So make sure you're finding things that you love and then work in it. Any more questions?
What do you mean by taking your confidence?
Say it again?
What do you mean by taking your confidence?
Taking your confidence. There are moments where, I can sit up here and say, I have the confidence in the world, but then there are days where your mind has told you you cannot do it. Or when you go into that place that's outside of your comfort zone, you immediately kind of take a break for your confidence and you're like, I can't do this, I don't know what this is. But then if you fake it when you're in that room and say, yes, I can do this, even though in your heart you know, I'm having a hard time doing it, but faking yourself and saying, yes, I can do this, I can fake it, and then going home and actually putting the work into it. So always trying to be confident, even though your body and your mind is fighting against that. So just keep going, keep faking it. Anyone else? All right, thanks ladies.
Daisy and Laura, are you still there? Yeah, we can see. If we can, I know we've got a very short amount of time, and we have both Becca and Sally here, and we've got Daisy and Laura on the phone. Daisy, do you want to take just 3 or 4 minutes and share your story, and then Laura, and then we'll come back to Becca and Sally as well. Are you on mute, Daisy? Okay, we can't hear you, Daisy. Let me see, Laura, do you want to try, because maybe it's a problem on our end? No, we can't hear either of you, so maybe it's, we can ask for IT help, but in the meantime, let me have, so hang on guys. In the meantime, let's have Becca come on up, but, and then, I don't know if you can help us if we have the ability to have the folks who are on WebEx, if we can get them in sound-wise.
Hi everyone, I'm Becca Michael. I am a professor at the University of Cincinnati, and I'm the Ohio Cyber Range Institute Executive Staff Director, which is a mouthful. And I almost didn't graduate high school, so this is always fun for me. I went to Middletown High School. Who knows Middletown? Yep. I was great until about 7th grade, and then I had different priorities. And I got a pink mohawk, and I played in bands, and I did not do well at school. And my family life changed as well. And we never had a lot of money. So I didn't really know what the future would hold. It felt like in order to go to college, you had to have money. Like my sisters and brothers didn't go. That just wasn't a thing that we did. So the future didn't look too bright, and I was like, well, this is fun for now. I'll figure it out. And then, when some circumstances changed my sophomore year, I found about College Credit Plus. Who knows about College Credit Plus? So it's where you can take free college classes in high school. As many as you want, essentially. Like you just talk to your counselor and you figure out how to take college classes. And I went to St. Clair because it's fairly close. You know St. Clair? Yes. So I went to St. Clair, and I took all of these classes that they didn't have at my high school. And all of these classes were like people wanted to learn. It wasn't this really toxic environment that I didn't even know I was in high school. Not to say anything bad about Middletown, but at the time it was just not a pleasant place to take classes. So I started to really learn again, and I started to become motivated again. And now all of a sudden, I had another future. I could do something else. I took a programming class at St. Clair. So they didn't have any computers at Middletown. So this was my first time being in a computer lab, and I took it instead of what they had at Middletown, which was like keyboarding. Do you guys still have keyboarding in high school? Were you guys take a typing class? Yeah? Have you taken it? Is it awful?
Well, I took it in middle school, and it wasn't that bad. I had a good teacher, so.
Oh, that's good. That makes a big difference. Everybody else took it in middle school now? Yeah. What's your typing speed?
Oh, slow.
Slow? I'm young, right, Leah? Like, I'm slow? Yeah. I didn't love the idea of taking typing because I was like, well, why am I learning to type? This doesn't make sense to me. I need a why. I need to know why I'm doing something. Otherwise, I just don't care, and it's real hard for me to pretend like I care. So I took a programming class instead, and it like counted for typing, and that was a reason why. I made these really simple programs at the beginning using BASIC programming language, and the first one was like an averaging program. like a baseball averaging program. You take in a couple of numbers and then you find out the average. Really simple. I can do that on a calculator, right? But I wrote it. I made that computer do something that it never would have done had I not written it. And I was like, that's power. I can figure out how to do more. I can do this over and over and over again. And so then I got the bug. But I wasn't over being a kid and doing some things that I wanted to do. So in my senior year of high school, I moved out and lived with some friends. We didn't have running water. Like it was, you know, it was a lot of fun, but it wasn't the greatest place to study. And so I was one day away from missing enough school that I didn't graduate. And I went, and then I did. I graduated. So very proud of that. But that's about all I could do. So I took 2 years off after I graduated high school, and I had those college credits though. So like I knew that I could go back to school. Worked at half-price books, like in customer service, and realized that I despised people. I had just worked in customer service for way too long. Who else has worked in customer service? Restaurant, store. Oh, being nice to people. I'd be like, I will work in the back room if you will take my register shift. I cannot do this anymore. So I was like, all right, well, it's time to go back to school so I can sit in a room and just write code. That sounds great. That doesn't exist. But it sounded great to me at the time. And so I went back to school at UC, and I got my associate's first in IT, and I got a job at P&G actually when I was 21, doing displacement studies on diapers. That was fun. And then I got a job in quality assurance, and that was for software. And then I started making software for GE and other people so that they could make jet engines, they can make rocket engines at Rocketdyne, they can make helicopters at Bell Helicopter, and I was like, yeah, this is it. This is fun. And so eventually became a developer and traveled around, got to do lots of different things. So I worked with teams in developing software, and then I was like, well, I want to see how they are actually using the software. So I started going out to the customer sites. I got to California, and I got to see what they did, and then I got to train them, and I got to do implementations. And so then, like, a bunch of engineers were up for like 72 hours on a weekend, putting in all this, you know, new software and testing it out, and then making something that would help the space shuttle fly. It was an amazing experience. I decided though, after a while, I wanted to get into healthcare. So I did that for a minute. I worked at Children's Hospital and I implemented Epic. And that was fun. I got to write software on top of it that would help the surgeons to use the software well. And in order to do that, I had to observe what the surgeons were doing. And so everything from like counting their sharps to you know, making sure that they had a certain kind of thread when they were sewing someone up, I got to observe that and I got to create software to help them do their job. And then I decided I wanted to teach. I had been an adjunct at UC and that was a lot of fun. And I hate public speaking. And I have terrible anxiety, right? So like even now, I've been a professor for a while, I'm holding on tight and this is really uncomfortable. So I was like, I need to do this. I need to do this more and more so that this is not a limitation. And in education, you don't have to be perfect at this. If you know what you're teaching, you can figure out how to teach it. Again, I'm motivated to do that. Now, I help the entire state with cybersecurity, education and workforce development, which is a lot of fun. And I teach all of the IT students at UC in the capstone class. So I've had a great experience. I've been really lucky. Like everyone else has said, you know, this is not the end of the journey. This is a path that somebody could take. We are so happy to help you take that, everyone up here. Even if you're not interested in UC or Sinclair or anything else, please let me know if you have any questions or if you ever need a mentor. So thank you so much.
All right, this is what we're going to try, guys. So thank you, Becca. And by the way, Becca has brochures or flyers. When you saw Dr. Prabhakar and Angelica and Sabrina, I think, they offered, reach out to them. We have their contact information. So it's out on a table outside the auditorium. Daisy, do you want to try talking? You can probably hear this. I'm on my cell phone. I'm going to hold it up to the microphone. So tell me if you can talk.
Hear me now?
We need to mute my computer, maybe. Yeah.
Now try.
Can you hear me now?
Can you guys hear this?
Can you hear me?
Okay, go ahead. We have just a few minutes, but
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Daisy J. Raj, and I am the director at PHS for platform security. And basically, all of you guys must probably heard of the cloud. So, well, I oversee the securing the cloud. So, my little history is I was born in South Africa, and I came from a small town called Tonga, South Africa, and I came from a very, very underprivileged background. My dad worked in a factory that produced sugar, and I was one of 5 kids. And when I was 14 years old, my dad passed away in his sleep, and my mom didn't know how to read and write. So I was left to my own devices. My older siblings had to leave school and go to work just to support the family. So, so when I was in school, I wasn't a very good student, and math and science was the least of my worries, and I wasn't good at it. So, as soon as I finished high school, I worked in a bank, and so the bank gave you opportunities to study, but just banking and finance. But I was very intrigued about ATMs and banking through phone, and that's what piqued my interest in pursuing STEM. So I went to the library. This was like, pre-internet in South Africa. I went to the library and I applied to many colleges in the United States. And one of the colleges that responded to me was Hocking College in Athens, Ohio. And so they gave me a scholarship for tuition, and the rest of it I had to come up on my own. So I had to make a choice on what degree I had to choose. So at that time I thought, well, since I didn't do well in math and science in school, let me try it here. And also it was close to Y2K, and so I went to into the computer science field. And I have to tell you that, yes, anybody and everybody can do this, because you just have to have the motivation and the determination, and you can do this. So I graduated with a computer science degree, and I was offered a job before I graduated with Nationwide Insurance in Columbus, Ohio. And then from there, I moved to several small companies, and then ended up in Cardinal Health, which is a big pharmaceutical company. And there they gave me an opportunity to go into the security space. And while there, I did a lot of independent learning, research, training, and they also paid for a lot of my training. And that's how I went into the SAP security space, cyber security space, and I have to tell you, it was very, very, very enriching. And also, just to give you a little bit of background, in South Africa there were not very many opportunities because I was considered a person of color. I grew up in apartheid, where like, the 60 million blacks were governed by a minority, and we were not considered smart. So just given that background, you have to pursue and you have to come out of that, the situation that you are. You can overcome any situation if you put your mind to it. So,
Hey, Daisy.
so yeah,
Daisy,
yeah.
sorry for interrupting you, but I know we have two more women, Laura and Sally. Do you mind if we hurry up?
Okay, I'm almost done.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, yes. And so yeah, what I like about my job is that in my last job, in my last company, I traveled to over 30 countries and just working with different cultures, experiencing different people, and so yeah, that's about me in a nutshell. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daisy. Laura, do you want to go?
Trying to click so we can get to the last one for questions if there are any. So good morning, everybody. Thank you for being with us today and for letting me join you. My name is Laura, and I work at Ethicon. I am a design engineer, and I work in our new product development. So what that means is I get to help design components, test methods, devices that are used in surgical procedures. So Ethicon is a medical device company, and we make things like staplers and advanced energy products that are used in surgery. It would make a lot more sense if I could show you a device, but we'll make do with the phone here. So I actually grew up in Cincinnati. I went to Ursuline Academy for high school. And when I was there, I had the opportunity to take an intro to engineering class. So I know that Princeton offers some intro to STEM courses. And it was very similar to that. We kind of got exposed to different types of engineering. And in one of those lessons, we actually got to go on a field trip to Ethicon. I got to see kind of what their test facilities looked like. I got to meet some of their engineers. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I didn't know that they did this type of work right here in Cincinnati. And so that's actually how I got interested in engineering, was through that field trip. It was an event much like what we're doing today, where we had professionals talking to us about what they do. So I never really questioned, whether or not I wanted to pursue STEM. Once I decided that I was interested, I was like, let's do it. However, when I went to my first engineering class in college, remember I went to Ursuline and that's an all-girls school. I walked into a room of probably 300 boys and 3 girls. And I was like, oh, what did I get myself into? And I think that growing up in the high school environment that I grew up in, I was really fortunate that I had a great support system in my teachers and my friends. And I didn't know it at the time, but a lot of those teachers were mentors to me. And I think that helped prepare me to be successful in college and figure out how to adapt to this new environment where I was a minority. And so, let's see. I don't want to talk too long. I want to leave some time. Is there something specific you want me to cover?
Yeah, I think you're good. Sally, do you want to come on up? And so we'll transition quickly and then see if we have a few minutes for a question and answer. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thank you for your patience. You've been sitting down a long time, so I really appreciate your attention this morning. But to me, what gets me about this event is to see your faces. And there isn't a time that I can say very often when I get to see the future. And in your faces, that's the future of this country and this world. I work for the premier environmental protection agency for the country, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. I work out of the research laboratory here in Cincinnati. How many of you were aware that Cincinnati is a world research center for water? Who knew, right? We've been doing water research here in Cincinnati for over a century. So more than 100 years we've been studying water. And that is what my career and my work is about every day, is how do we bring safe water, clean air to the world, so to speak, but most importantly to the people of this great country. So to me, when we think about wastewater, right, some people say, oh, that's sewage, right? But to me, that's some of the most important work that we do here out of the lab. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about my career, because I grew up in Houston, Texas. Yo soy mexicana. Y soy de padres muy pobres y sin educación. So I grew up with a family that was very poor, and my parents didn't even go to elementary school, to be quite honest. So it was rough, and a person like me is never supposed to reach, and be a part of an agency, I think, in so many ways, at EPA. But I was the first Hispanic woman senior executive hired at the US EPA in 2000, so I've been working at EPA for more than 20 years. And it has been a tremendous experience to be able to see the difference that our work makes in the lives of people across the country, and especially as it relates to safe water. I wanted to ask the group, how many people in the United States today don't have access to safe drinking water and even basic sanitation, able to flush the toilet? Anybody have an idea? Oh, about 1,000. 2 million Americans today. Is that what she said? She said, all right, 2 million people in this country don't have safe water to drink. They can't open a faucet and get a glass of water. It's really a big problem, and that's only one of many that we have to confront as we go forward. And we need you. And we especially need diverse, Hispanic, African American, Asian. We need everybody all over to be a part of this work. It is perhaps the most gratifying and the most, some of the most important work that goes on. EPA is largely a scientific workforce, but we don't have very many people that look like me or that look like you right now. So we've got work to do. And I know that we're running short of time. So I just wanted to share a few thoughts. You are as smart as any other student here. Never doubt that. You are as smart as anyone else. Take these STEM courses and be courageous in doing that. Believe in what you can achieve, and you can achieve a lot, as you've seen from all of these great women here. And to me, you do have to work hard, and you have to work, as a person of color, you have to work extra hard, because when you get into those boardrooms and when you get into those tough situations, much more is going to be expected of you than others in that same room. So you have to work hard, but you can do it. You can do it. And don't ever let anybody tell you you can't. I'm an example of a person who never should have made it, but I got there just the same, right? And beat the odds. And every one of you here today can do the same. Thank you.
I think we're at time right now. I think we need to let you guys go back to class. Does anybody, okay, we do have just a few minutes. Does anybody have further questions that we can, and I know I would love to, I talked with Christy, set up time where we can come back and talk next year. I already jotted a note. We need to have a discussion about mentoring. What is mentoring? How do you get a mentor? How do you use a mentor? I remember when my youngest was in high school in his junior year and started interviewing for college, and I had that discussion with him, and I said, this person should be a mentor. He's like, what's a mentor, Mom? So once you get in the work world, you kind of take that for granted, but we'll have a discussion on that. Other questions or topics, things you'd like to hear from us in the future, I'd like to bring on a regular basis, maybe once a quarter or a couple times a year, women from different companies together to help further the cause of women in STEM. So if you don't have an idea today, if you talk to your teachers, if you talk to your counselors, give them that input and information. Any questions? Okay, well, thank you for your time on a Monday morning. I know it's a rainy day. You're close to the end of the school year. All my best for exams next week, and thank you for your time this morning.
I'm wondering if any of you would be willing to share something that inspired you today or something that encouraged you. Anyone brave enough to share something that meant a lot to you today from this group of women? She said that everyone up here made it this far even though odds were against them. Thank you for sharing that.
So, almost every one of you said that, like, someone tried to bring me down towards we win because it's such a male-dominated field. And it's really inspiring to see everyone, like all of you women up there who actually made it through that, pushed through, even though, you know, a whole bunch of men said, no, you can't do that. Looking at it possible men, which is really hard, intimidating, and all of you guys do.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I just thought it was cool that some of the places you guys came from, like I knew where those high schools were, and so it's just interesting to see like you guys being so successful and coming from places that I actually know about. So it seems like it's more realistic to me that I can like do stuff like this because I know where you guys came from.
Anyone else? I hope today that you recognize, number one, the amazing brilliance you saw in front of you. I don't know that I've ever had an opportunity to sit in front of a group of women who have been so successful in the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics fields. And I can tell you in full honesty that if I had had an opportunity like this at your age, don't get me wrong, I love my job and I love being a school counselor. But there's a chance I might have been working in one of these fields because I was one of those students who sat and had people who shared some of the negativity. My math teacher in 10th grade told me that I could never be a math teacher because I was a woman. And I just was appalled by that, but then also it gave me that determination I needed to become a math teacher originally. I hope you realize the promise that each of you has. There's a reason your teachers nominated you to be here. I know I saw some hands go up about CCP, but I didn't see them all. As we move into next year, make sure you're asking the questions you need to about how you can become a part of a College Credit Plus program. I know some of you have probably taken some of the assessments to try to qualify. If you haven't been successful, find out what you can do to practice so that you can take those IQ-Placer tests successfully. Reach out to your teachers, reach out to your counselors to make sure we're answering those questions you need us to. I just want to say thank you very much on behalf of all of us. We are so thankful that you are all here today. Those of you up on the screen, if you're still listening, thank you very much. I hope you'll all show a round of appreciation for our women here today. And if you would, at this point, you can head back to class. But if any of you feel really called to ask questions of these ladies, I'm sure they would not mind meeting us out in the hallway so that you can ask those if you'd like. Thank you for your attention today.